and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 242, and today's date is December 18th, 2013. And the title of this episode is False Flag Event is a Go, Tapering to Begin in 2014. And we heard the Fed was out there. They made their announcement that they will begin tapering sometime in January of 2014. If we go back to my previous reports, when they were talking about tapering back in August and September, we had an event occur at this time. And they wanted to show, and again, Obama was out there saying the housing market's recovering, unemployment's going down, everything looks great, we're about to taper. We had this Syrian event. Then the Syrian event was put on the back burner because of Russia stepped in and made a deal, and the people of the United States and Congress were not ready to go to war over another country using chemical weapons on his own people, which is absolutely not true. And the UN report that came out shows that Assad has never used during this time the chemical weapons. It was actually the rebels who did it, and we can see that the United States government completely lied about this to get us into Syria. And this is what happened the last time. And then the Fed pulled back and said, listen, the economy's not doing well, we have a government shutdown, we can't taper, maybe we'll look at this again in December. During this time, I've been reporting that everything looks the same, like we're headed toward this event. The Fed was talking about tapering again. Biden is out there. He's campaigning to let everyone know the recovery is getting better. The manipulated unemployment numbers have brought the unemployment number down to 7%. And here we are. They just announced it. They didn't do anything yet. They just announced it. Now they're pumping up the markets as high as they possibly can go. And you can see by the announcement today, the market just skyrocketed. Perfect setup for what is coming. And we have to look at the entire picture of what is going on. They made the announcement. They're letting everyone know the economy is getting better. Everyone believes we are in a recovery, at least that's what they think everyone believes, and we are going to see some type of an event, and we'll talk about that as we go through this report. But let's get into the economic collapse news and see if we are really in a recovery, and let's see if Europe is actually really in a recovery. Now, if we look at Cyprus, for instance, there's a report today that the number of bad loans held by Cyprus rose sharply to 48%. It's up from 36%, so now they have more bad loans. And the Bank of Cyprus CEO John Hurricane said Wednesday that bad loans will rise as the economy continues to wither in the wake of a financial rescue deal the country agreed with international creditors in March that gutted its banking sector. And we know this for a fact. And we also have to remember when this whole Cyprus bail-in thing happened here, European leaders were out there saying, oh, this is going to be the template for bail-ins. And then, of course, they retracted that and say, no, there is no template. We're not going to do anything. We're not even going to look at bail-ins. But let's look at what happened since that time. Since that time, actually, before the Cyprus bail-in, we had the FDIC, Bank of England, create a document which showed and bullet pointed how to do these bail-ins. Then this document was spread around and given to the Eurozone, given to Switzerland, Australia, Canada. The UK was part of it. And guess what they did? They created a template to do bail-ins. And we can see across the entire private Western Central Bank countries, they are setting up and getting ready to do bail-ins, even though they told us that this was not a template. So then why are they creating these documents and getting prepared for this? But let's go further. Now, Spain is dipping into the Social Security reserves because their unemployment is skyrocketing, their debt is skyrocketing, and right now Spanish loan delinquencies as a percentage of the total have risen for the 8th straight month to a new record high of 13%. And Banco Santander, a loan jumped to 7% from 3.1% following its reclassification of loans that it had refinanced. And we can see right now Greece, we can see Cyprus, Spain, France, all in trouble, and let's not leave out Portugal. Now, Ireland is saying that they are coming out of this bailout scenario. There are reports that these banks are hiding bad and toxic investments on their books, but they're using tricky accounting to keep it hidden. And guess what's going to happen? Eventually it's going to come out, and that will be exposed to everyone. And if they are truly in this fantastic recovery, why are they asking the unemployed to leave the country? Wouldn't they have jobs to help these people out? They don't want to pay for their Social Security. They do not want to pay for unemployment, and they do not want their unemployment numbers to go up, so they are asking people to leave. Now, since the Fed is out there and they're telling us how we're in this recovery and everything is so great, you would think that, companies like the automobile manufacturers will be reporting, record sales because, everyone has a job. We're down to 7% now. And compared to last year, sales should be incredible at this point. But Ford lowers its profit outlook for North America. The Ford Motor Company planned for an 8 to 9% operating margin by 2015 or 2016 may not be attainable. Now, why? Because of the deep recession in Europe and currency devaluations in Venezuela and the sluggish economy in the U.S. So what they're saying is people are not buying our vehicles. The economies across Europe and in North America is awful, and it's showing up. What GM has been doing is they've been channel stuffing. They've been sending their manufactured cars to the dealers, and right now the dealers are holding between 76 and 78 days worth of inventory on their lots. So guess what? They're hoping that everyone goes out and buys all these cars. And no one is going to do this, because we have to remember the unemployment rate is between 25 and 30%, depending on the calculation. People are underemployed, and most people right now are not looking to buy this brand new shiny car. They're looking to feed their family, clothe their family, and just make ends meet. And this is why we see retail having a problem. This is why retail stores are laying off people, and retail is doing the same thing. They are channel stuffing. They have huge inventories of products waiting for people to come in and purchase and purchase and purchase, but they are going to be surprised that this is not going to happen. Now, yesterday we reported that new home builders are out there saying confidence is high, and what they're doing is they are still building because they expect people to come and purchase the homes that they are building. And again, we saw this happen in 2007. They were continually building like crazy, because once you get the loan, the permits and things, you just keep building. You just keep going. And you saw this like in Florida, for instance. All these high-rise buildings, all these homes, they just kept on building. Even though New York, in the early of 2008, the real estate market was completely declining, and no one was coming to the homes anymore. Sales were dropping off. Prices were starting to fall. But Florida didn't see anything like that. They just kept on building. And then all of a sudden, it caught up. Everything came to a screeching halt because there was nobody. Right now, the new home builders are building, and they're hoping, just like the retail, just like automotive, that everyone rushes to buy these new homes. But what's interesting is that mortgage applications are down again 60% from 2013 highs to a new 13-year low. So we see mortgage applications plunging, and new home builders are just building houses. And what is very interesting, is that this housing market is looking like we're in a dead cat bounce. Now, I have the graph on the x22report.com site. If you click on the title of this report, scroll down, you will see the graph. Or if you go to the Sentinel alerts, I have the graph there. And I put what a bubble looks like with a dead cat bounce. And if you look at the real estate graph and the graph of what a typical bubble with a dead cat bounce looks like, it looks like we are in the dead cat bounce phase right now, and it looks like the only way this is going to end up is real estate completely collapsing. Now, what is also very interesting is that we understand that foreign investors are in this country buying tons of real estate, and they're using cash. Investors, hedge funds, are buying a lot of real estate using cash, trying to rent it out to people and trying to drive the prices up, and then they're going to go ahead and drop this real estate. But we're seeing Qatar. This is a small country of about 250,000 people off of Saudi Arabia. They are here in America spending a huge amount of money. Now, again, they have a natural gas deposit in Qatar and oil where the U.S., the central bankers are there, and they're using the U.S. dollar to sell their natural resources, getting tons of U.S. dollars. And they are taking these U.S. dollars and coming back to the United States and buying real estate, buying TV stations, buying everything in sight. I mean, Qatar's real estate investment arm decided in 2010 to pump in about $650 million into Washington, D.C. They have a $1 billion project on the site for in Northwest Washington. They are spending $500 million on TV projects, and they are continually purchasing real estate all over the place. And they say the U.S. real estate market offers attractive fundamentals over the next few years, making it an important segment of any investor's real estate portfolio. But the question is, why? Was this the deal that the Fed and the United States government had with Qatar? Listen, we'll protect you, we'll help you with the oil, the natural gas, and we'll give you aid, and what we need you to do is we need you to come back to the U.S. and spend like crazy to buy real estate. And it looks like this is what they are doing. Now, the Fed came out today, and they said they're going to start tapering on the January of 2014. And they're saying that the unemployment right now is reaching where they need it to be. It's around 7%. They said they were going to start tapering. It's a miracle how we went from 7.3 all the way down to 7%. And again, December 28th, if Congress does not approve the extension for unemployment, we're going to have approximately about 1.3 million people fall off of unemployment, and that is going to lower the unemployment rate to 6 point whatever percent, whatever they decide to put it at. And they will be right in line to do the full tapering. But right now, again, like I said in the beginning, they're going to start. And Bernanke was sure to mention that Bernanke saying that the tapering is data dependent. And what this means is that depending on this data, no matter which way it moves, if the unemployment goes back up, we can add the QE back in. We can always back out of our decision. And he made this point, and he was very clear on this. And he went on to other different points where Bernanke said inflation cannot be picked up and moved where wanted. I don't know exactly what that means. He says monetary policy isn't a panacea. Again, he's talking in code here. He says action today intended to maintain accommodation, sees concerns of QE impact on asset prices, and I guess he doesn't see any bubbles forming. Reiterates he was slow to recognize the crisis. Well, because he caused the crisis and they just didn't want to admit it. There is another crisis coming right now because we have bubbles in the stock market, bubbles in the treasury bonds, bubbles in the housing, bubbles in the student loan. But he doesn't see any of that. But don't worry, they are going to warn us when these bubbles come up, just like they did in 2008, in the same year where they said we're not predicting any type of recession this year. And again, just because they're talking about taper, and even if they start tapering, doesn't mean that this tapering is a real taper, because they have to unload the entire Fed's balance sheet. It's close to $4 trillion at this time. And again, $85 billion to infinity or $75 billion to infinity is still a lot of money to infinity. But what I see happening here is this is a great indicator that things are being aligned. The false flag event is a go. They believe that the economy is recovering. They believe they convinced the American people the economy is recovering. They're showing the unemployment is coming down. Everything is being set up just like they were doing back in August. They are taking a different track right now, and all of a sudden we're going to have this major event. We're going to see a cyber attack, because the NSA was out there telling everyone that they thwarted this cyber attack that could have destroyed the economy, and they mentioned this many, many times. And we see how this is all being played out, and we can see that they are getting ready for something to happen, because really the Fed doesn't want to taper, because they understand if they can continue to taper, the entire economy is going to fall apart, because they are the market. They are the ones driving it. They're pumping the money into the banks. The banks are pumping it into the stock market. They are buying the treasury bonds and pumping up the bond market, and they understand this. So they need this event, because without it, they can't just come out and say, listen, the economy is recovering, but we have to increase QE. But with an event from another country collapsing the economy, they can say, hey, we were on the verge of recovery, and now we have to churn up QE and actually push QE to its limits of $200 billion or $250 billion a month, just to get out of what Syria did, what China did, what Iran did, what North Korea did, depending on what country they go with at the time. And we can definitely see they are moving towards this. Now, the former top NSA official has just stated we are now in a police state. By way of background, the government is spying on virtually everything we do, he says, and this is coming from Bill Beeney. And all the information gained by the NSA through spying is then shared with federal, state, and local agencies, and they are using that information to prosecute petty crimes such as drugs and taxes. The agency are instructed to intentionally launder the information gained through spying, so this way no one notices where they got it, because it's completely against the Constitution. And what they do is they pretend they got the information in a more legitimate way, and to hide that from the defense attorneys and judges. The NSA also ships Americans' most confidential, sensitive information to foreign countries like Israel, the UK, and other countries, so they can unmask the information and give it back to the NSA or use it for their own purposes. And they are using this information to steal patent information. They're using it to get economic tips. They're using it to spy on every single American, to create social profiles. And we knew they were doing this. All the BS that the government officials are telling us, that they're only collecting the phone numbers and where these phone numbers are located, is completely ridiculous. And I can't even believe that they think that we are so stupid to believe that that's all they're collecting when the phone company already has that information. No, they're listening to every conversation. They're putting information together, creating social profiles. They need to know what everyone is doing. They are blackmailing the Supreme Court judges. They're blackmailing other government officials to do what they need them to do because they understand this collapse is coming, and this is why they created the Utah data center, because you do not need a data center like that just to hold phone numbers and the location of where these phone numbers are. No, that's not why that is there. Now, of course, Obama had this task force looking into the NSA, and of course, we had the 60 Minutes where they came out and they went through the NSA and it looks so cool and great and everything, and they're letting us know that without them the economy would have been destroyed. And of course, this was the day before a federal judge came out and said, no, this is unconstitutional. And of course, Dianne Feinstein was out there saying, really, I'm shocked, I can't believe this. You mean spying on people and taking their personal information is unconstitutional? Oh yeah, it says that in the Fourth Amendment, but other judges said it was okay. And we can see, because those other judges were probably blackmailed with the NSA information that they had for who knows what. But again, Obama had this, task force, probably spent millions of dollars with this task force, and their recommendation is, this is unbelievable, the White House appointed task force is to recommend an overhaul of the National Security Agency, including the changing the controversial bulk phone record collection and giving it civilian leadership. So all of this task force, they needed to tell Obama that they need to overhaul how they spy because it's completely unconstitutional. Now, did you really need a task for this and pay so much money? They knew it was unconstitutional. This is all smoke and mirrors, and guess what they're going to do? Absolutely nothing. Yeah, they're going to change things. They're going to change it in a way that no one can now definitely find out, because what are they doing in the NSA? They're getting rid of most of the employees. They're replacing them with computer centers that can do the same work as employees. And guess what? Computer centers don't talk. They're not whistleblowers. And this is the real change that they're doing. They're not going to stop this NSA spying whatsoever, because they are nervous, they are afraid of losing their power, and they need to know what everyone out there is doing. Foreign leaders, bankers, government officials, judges, and all the people in the U.S., they need to know what everyone is thinking, what everyone is doing, who knows who, and this is why this is not going anywhere. Now, we understand that the central bankers are using a different roadmap to get what they want. The Syria conflict didn't work out. They're trying the peace road here with Iran, and this is not going well already, and this is not turning out the way they thought it was going to turn out. They tried a backdoor approach with the central bankers, with the IMF coming in, trying to infiltrate their banking system, hopefully to put the US dollar back as the reserve currency, but this is not going well. This is the illusion of nuclear talks, which is absolutely an illusion. They want Iran to continually to enrich uranium, because this will be used in the false flag event. And you can see how they are completely setting this up. Here we are in peace talks, and we imposed sanctions on oil companies and other businesses that wanted to do business with Iran. We told them they couldn't because the central bankers didn't infiltrate the banking system yet to put them on the U.S. reserve currency. Iran looked at it and said, hey, wait a minute, you said no more sanctions, and here you are sanctioning companies again, and this is not in accordance with the Geneva document that we came up with. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase our uranium enrichment, and we can see how they are maneuvering them and getting them to maneuver in a way where they can use this in a false flag event. But out in the Pacific, we had the incident of the destroyer and the Chinese ships, and there was almost a collision. It really wasn't a collision. The U.S. was trying to provoke China into doing something, and the Chinese government actually came out on their official news agency, saying that they accuse the U.S. ship of deliberately provoking and using provocative behavior. And we can see that this is exactly what they were there to do, because they need to get these countries to do something, to make a move. They try it with North Korea, they do it with Syria, they do it with Iran, they do it with Russia, and especially with China, because that is the biggest threat, because China is making deals, making their move to become the world's reserve currency. But we can see right now why the U.S. didn't want to dismantle their missile shield going from Poland to Romania, and the Russian delegate and Russian President Putin said, why do you need this missile shield? This was, erected for Iran, and you're in peace talks with them. They're abiding by what you want them to do, and why do you still need this missile shield? You should start to dismantle it or make preparations to dismantle it. The White House came out and said, absolutely not. This missile shield is going forward, and actually we're going to bring in more technology and more systems. We can see why, because we understand that there was no intention for this peace deal to go through. This is an illusion. So Russia said, whoa, if this missile shield is going to be here, we're going to put up a missile shield on the border of Poland and running all the way down. And Russia right now is preparing a response to the U.S. prompt for a U.S. global strike program. And this global strike program is that the U.S. can hit any hostile object anywhere on Earth within an hour after the decision declared by the U.S. And so what they're doing is they are setting up their military railroad missile complex, and this is nuclear weapons ICBMs on a rail car, and they can be moved around to anywhere they want to put these missiles. And the new military railroad missile complex will be equipped with a solid fuel, multiple warhead, intercontinental ballistic missile. And Russia is also modifying their Pantsir-S air defense system with an improved capability to intercept drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, and they're calling them UAV killers. So we can see what's happening here. NATO, United States, prepping for World War III. Russia, seeing what's happening, is prepping for World War III. China, the United States, both in the Pacific, both coming head to head, and U.S. trying to provoke China because they need a war started to cover up this collapse that is coming, and it is coming very soon. And they are doing everything they can to try to provoke China. And China set up an air defense zone because they are getting ready for World War III. Because all these countries understand how these central bankers work. They understand that the dollar is collapsing. And, nobody comes out and says it like, oh, look, the dollar's collapsing, this is why we're getting ready. They do this under the cover because no one would really come out and believe what they're saying. This is why they're using the nuclear peace talks as the illusion, because they don't, if they came out and said, listen, we're having peace talks with Iran because we really want to get into their banking systems to put them back on the U.S. dollar as reserve currency, people in the U.S. would go, wait, what? That's ridiculous. No, they use the illusion of the nuclear talks because that's what people see out there, and that's the illusion they've been using for 30 years, that they're very close to creating a nuclear bomb. Now, right now, the U.S. is very pessimistic about the Iran nuclear talks. The mood among U.S. officials about the next round of negotiations has shifted from elated to somber, even gloomy. U.S. officials are very skeptical that Iran will accept Western demands now. And right now, Senator Mark Kirk of Illinois told reporters on Tuesday that he is optimistic on new Iran sanctions bill. It will come out soon, and that the members involved can push it forward. It's coming, said Kirk. And it sounds like James T. Kirk from the USS Enterprise. But anyhow, what they are doing is they are pushing these sanctions forward. And we have to remember what the White House, James Carney, Obama said. Listen, we are trying a diplomatic approach. If you push sanctions forward, I will have only one alternative, and that is a military strike. So here we are. We have senators pushing sanctions. We have the diplomatic talks kind of breaking down, not going as well as everyone thought they were going to go. And we have here Iran just increased its uranium enrichment. All this is being set up for is the false flag event. And now we have the Fed out there saying we are going to taper in January. The next indicator to let us know that something big is going to happen is this December 28th deal with unemployment. If the White House, and this is an indicator, doesn't mean that if they do approve an extension that the event is not going to happen. It means that it might be just pushed off a little bit. If they do not extend unemployment, it is for sure that things are a complete go. There's no more obstacles, and they are completely going full speed ahead with this event during this time. If they reinstate it, it doesn't matter because they already set the date for taper, even though they can come back on this. And that means they need a little bit more time. And they might even do a little bit of tapering in January. And of course, the markets will probably end up falling at this time. But they might have to push off the event a month or two before they get things ready. But that is a really good indicator to see our time span of how they are thinking. Because we have to remember, if they do not extend it, unemployment goes right to where the Fed wants it. And of course, this is a made-up number because people just fell off and no longer looking for a job. They fell off of the unemployment insurance, and the unemployment is going to go to what, 6.7, 6.6, 6.5%, and that is a full-on taper recovery of the entire economy of the United States. This is what the Fed says. So that is a really great indicator. Now, if they extend the unemployment, we might see unemployment go from 7 down to 6.9 very slowly because they're ramping up to that point for the false flag event. Now, Saudi Arabia is out there saying, listen, Saudi Arabia, they are warning that it's going to be forced to go its own way in foreign policy as with regards to Syria. We believe that many of the West policies on both Iran and Syria risk the stability and security of the Middle East. The West has allowed one regime to survive and the other continue its program for uranium enrichment with all consequent with all the consequent dangers of weaponization. And they're saying that if this keeps going forward, they're going to go their own way and take actions into their own hands. And this is all fitting into the event that will be coming next year. Now, there is a report from that Chinese hackers attacked crucial government election website. Chinese hacker tapped into the Federal Election Commission's website during the federal government shutdown in October. A report released on Tuesday indicates that the hackers crashed the FEC's computer system, which compiles federal election campaign finance information like contributions to parties, candidates, and how those billions of dollars are spent in each election by candidates, political parties, and independent groups such as political action committees. And hackers from China, in Russia, Syria, you name it, are constantly targeting U.S. websites. But what happened here with the Federal Election Commission, which is the independent watchdog sponsored by the government to keep elections fair and free, effectively got hit about as hard as it ever has gotten hit. And we can see they are pushing this, blaming this on China because they want everyone to believe when this event occurs, this is going to come from whatever country. Could be China, could be Iran, could be Syria, could be North Korea, could be Russia. And we're going to see a multi-prong event occur because they need to get this world war started to cover this collapse. Because we have to remember this entire economy is driven by the Fed. They are pumping in money into the banks. The banks then are moving that money into the stock market. They're not loaning it out to business or whatsoever. They have manipulated the unemployment numbers. Unemployment continually goes down. If the Congress does not elect to extend the unemployment insurance, we're going to see unemployment drop quite a bit. Of course, this is a manipulated number because these people are still unemployed. And all the people that have fallen off unemployment, they just don't count. GDP was recalculated all the way back to 1929 because they realized that GDP was in the negative range. So they had to bring it back up to the positive range. So they started to use research and development in their GDP, and the only way for this to make sense is they had to go back to 1929 and recalculate it, and they got their GDP back in the positive range. So we can see what is happening. I mean, we look at companies, they are not making profits. Many of the retail stores are in dire straits. We can see the real estate market is completely in a dead cat bounce right now, and it will be plummeting and collapsing along with the treasury bonds, along with the stock market, and we can definitely see them ramping this up for 2014. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared.